More dish on Danny Rick. F1 continues to piss off fans looking forward to the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and wet weather threatens yet another race at Spa. This is Into the Chicane, the pre-Belgian Grand Prix edition. Before we get started, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends here on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music, as well as Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We are back. We spent the last few days working on a brand new studio setup. You guys won't be able to tell, but a lot of work has gone into this. The man across the screen is, as always, Brandon Wood.
Yo, clocking in for the graveyard shift tonight.
Holy shit, we are what, 8 hours away from FP1?
Yeah, it's
local time
coming in quick. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be a wet one. I'll tell you what.
That looks like the word on the street is that it's guaranteed to be wet. Everything I've seen looks like it's like uber wet, not like a sprinkling of rain. Like, remember last week in Hungary when it was like, oh, it's definitely going to rain Saturday, and it sprinkled a little bit on Friday, and then everything else was, hunky-dory.
Yeah.
This looks like an absolute fucking downpour. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Before we do, though, we promised that we would talk a little bit more about the Daniel Ricciardo situation, because we did put out a quick pit where we, I talked about my conspiracy theory that he's only there to use him as like a litmus test for Yuki Tsunoda, question whether or not Yuki's in good standing for a Red Bull seat in the future. But there's so much more other shit going on with his whole return to F1 and to the Red Bull family that I think we should dive into it and talk about some of those key points. What do you think?
Absolutely. There's a lot going on in the story, and so I think it's only right that we break it down a little bit more.
And what better time to do it than at 10 p.m. on a Thursday night with a man with a newborn baby?
Yeah, we're just putting in the real grind set hours right now.
We have to compete with all these other guys who are releasing their shit at 6 in the morning. UK time. What do they call it? GMT? Is that
Greenwich Mean Time? Yeah. Well, technically, that's like the start of everything, right?
I believe that was the Big Bang.
Is in Greenwich.
I have no idea. I'm on Pacific Standard Time, and I think everybody else should be as well. As long as you're not using military 24-hour clock, use whatever the fuck you want. Those people piss me off so bad. When you look down at somebody's phone and it says that it's like 17:05? Get the fuck out of here. All right, lead us off. What do you got for us on the forefront of the Danny Rick saga?
So all of this information I'm about to go through is all from multiple sources. None of it is quite official, but it's all hearsay that's been accumulated from people amongst the paddock. The decision for Nyck DeVries to make an early exit was actually decided a little bit earlier than expected. They were looking at sim data between Daniel, Yuki, and Nyck. Nyck was not hitting the same benchmarks as Yuki, so they decided to give Nyck a few more rounds to try and hit those benchmarks, and of course, did not happen.
And then the second Daniel surpassed those, they put him in the seat.
Say that again.
And then the second Daniel surpassed those numbers, they threw him right in.
I don't know about what numbers they were looking for with Daniel, but I know that just the sponsors saw Daniel as much more profitable.
That makes sense. From an F1 standpoint, I don't think Nyck was getting any media love or attention whatsoever.
No, I mean when he made his first race debut in the Williams, it was a big story, and he had a great finish, and that did give him, his lead into the seat he has now. But
that he had
beginning of the season,
correction that he had.
Exactly, he had. So, but going throughout the season, he wasn't really getting any performances in the car that were making people really watch and pay attention. So he just kind of had a rough go. Like I said, sponsors saw Daniel as a more profitable option, seen as a key for AlphaTauri's rebranding. So We had talked about other potential options, Liam Lawson, Ayumu Iwasa. Liam is still suspected to be part of Red Bull's future. His success so far in the Super Formula has been like exceeding their expectations. So they didn't want to stymie Liam's progress with that by interrupting that season, having him come drive.
I like this. I like the word stymie. I like that drop.
Yeah, stymie.
Little Rascals drop. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So for Liam, he's still on the road to F1, even though he wasn't their pick to replace Nyck right now.
They're gonna let him marinate a little bit longer. It's kind of what it sounds like you're getting towards.
Yeah. So
I like
depending
that.
on Daniel's performance, what were you saying?
I said I like that. I think they kind of jumped the gun in the past by putting Yuki in a little bit too soon. I think he could have probably done for another season in F2.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking on that, Red Bull is pretty sure that Honda wants to take Yuki with them to Aston Martin, is what the word is. So hence is why they're not seemingly making him a part of the plan.
Wow. I mean, that's a whole other bag of worms right there. Because then when you start getting into questions of whose seat is he going to take, that unlocks a Pandora's box of who deserves it, who it's obviously probably going to go to, why it shouldn't go that way, but that's a whole other episode. We're just talking about Red Bull today.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting that, Yuki has been able to stay with AlphaTauri for as long as he has.
Yeah.
Especially given the earlier season of his career where he struggled a lot. It's very expensive, wrecking a lot of cars. But
and
AlphaTauri.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned too that we haven't talked about on this show at all is the rebranding of AlphaTauri. I don't think we've talked about that at all, but they are set to rebrand at the beginning of next season, right?
Yeah, they're going to have a new name, new sponsors, everything. So
wow,
it makes sense why they want to have a character like Daniel.
Right, you need a face of the team. I think they're a good pair too. You can pair Yuki up with almost anybody except Nyck DeVries. For whatever reason, Nyck DeVries seemed like such a media wet blanket. Yuki and Pierre were a good duo. Pierre was always laughing at Yuki. Daniel's going to be a real fun watch, whether or not you like him or you don't. I don't think the two of us are like the biggest Daniel Ricciardo fans. Don't hate him by any stretch. But from what you're saying, like as far as, branding-wise goes, he is a great choice for them. I'm curious, do they go back to Toro Rosso? You think they're going to try and brand... What if they brand American?
What would that be?
I have no idea. I mean, it would be Red Bull, but like, what if they go... Because of all the teams leaning into the American outreach, Red Bull's, aside from the whole Logan Sargent experiment that's going on right now, Red Bull's got the Ford thing locked up. Daniel Ricciardo has huge ties to the United States. That just popped into my head right now, and that's a whole can of fucking worms in of itself. Also,
Yeah.
But the rebranding of AlphaTauri, interesting. What were you saying? What were you? You had something down here about Helmut Marko.
Yeah, and then these same sources also saying that Helmut's honestly mentioned that they do not have a replacement for Checo. And so far, Checo is still safe until the end of his contract, which would be end of 2024, right? So
so the end of next season. That's really what I want to get to with this whole thing, because when it comes to the big question of why Daniel Ricciardo is back in F1, why he's back at the Red Bull family, all that cute shit with, AlphaTauri and media and being the face of the franchise, yada, yada. That's all nice, and that's an aside. But he's not there to be the face of AlphaTauri. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, on a PR sense, might be happy with him, and the outlook of him being the face and yada, yada, but he's there to do a very expensive job. And I had talked about it before. You correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a little bit more convinced than I am that Daniel Ricciardo has a real shot at taking Checo's seat next year or beyond, the following season. Would you agree?
I think so.
You think that's a shot? I'm not as convinced. Like I said before, I think that Red Bull was dangling a little bit of a carrot in front of his face, knowing that he would sign because in his eyes, he sees an opportunity to potentially get in that seat when really I don't think they're going to let him get much farther than the AlphaTauri seat. But let's take all these rumors, all these ingredients, everything that's been swirling around, and really put that seat into question. So the question is, who, at any point, whether it be, middle of the season this year, after the season, or the start of the 2025 season, who gets that second seat? Actually, let's not even question 2025 because Checo's contract is going to be up. I think I'm confident in saying that he's going to part ways with Red Bull and probably retire, right?
Yeah, maybe not retire.
I could see him maybe going to another team, but not a competitive one. Maybe McLaren.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He'll follow Bottas's footsteps
And go to the new Sauber team. Go to the What are they going to be? Audi.
Audi.
Possibility, but let's put all the names in the hat. So for that seat, we have Sergio Perez, the current holder of the seat.
Yes.
There is Daniel Ricciardo, the guy who thinks that he might be getting this seat.
I mean, he's the only reason, from words from his mouth, the only reason he's taking the AlphaTauri seat is because he has a shot at that seat.
What he said was the only time he only sees himself returning to Formula One for a competitive team, was what I think he said, something like that, which means that he is eyeing getting that Red Bull drive.
Yeah.
Now we get into, you want to throw Yuki Tsunoda in there?
Sure, why not?
All right, let's say maybe Yuki gets a shot. Yuki T. I always forget it starts with a T. And then you get into the rumor mill, and these are huge. There was a rumor that Red Bull had contacted Ferrari. Oh, yeah. That was going all over the internet. That Red Bull, and it was said that they actually made the call. Red Bull called Ferrari for Charles Leclerc. You didn't hear this?
No.
Oh, wow. It was all over the place. And then one of my favorite rumors, actually, before we do that, then we'll go Alex Albon is in the rumor mill. Wow, this is a longer list than I thought.
Yeah. The Albon one is that there's already been, Helmet made a statement, something like, too bad he's got a contract until 2025 or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And then there is the big dog that I would say in this rumor mill, and that is
Big dog.
Lando Norris.
Oh.
So let's start at the top. Go ahead.
Lando did follow Red Bull on Instagram.
If you really want to get conspiratorial about it and start, breaking out the red yarn, you can do something like that. I guess we'll start. We won't start at the top. We'll wishy-washy it around. So you said Helmut Marko had made comments about Alex Albon.
Yeah.
Alex Albon, previous member of the Red Bull family, Red Bull Academy driver. And Red Bull puts a lot of emphasis. They love their Academy drivers. I think that's a big reason why Daniel Ricciardo was even invited back with such open arms, was because they put so much stock into these guys, and they take pride in having developed half this fucking grid, So getting a Red Bull driver back, I think, is a big thing for them. I don't see, as much as I would love it, he would be one of my top choices if the seat doesn't go to Checo. Alex Albon would be one of the dudes that I would like to see in it, or would be happy to see. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he either sticks it out with Williams and leads them into the next phase of Williams racing, into more success, hopefully beyond the midfield, which they're kind of creeping up on. Or, I've heard this rumor too, that Alex Albon may go to Ferrari. How hard does that get you?
That sounds interesting, but I feel like the better move for Alex is just to stick it out of Williams. I mean, he's obviously got a great team there around him. Car's a lot better this year than it has been in the past.
Yep.
James Vols is a great new principal for them. I think,
I think they're headed.
Stick it out of Williams.
They're headed in the right direction, and unless Ferrari does come knocking, which I mean that's a big if, then I think Alex's best shot is probably sticking it out at Williams. So do we cross Alex off the Red Bull seat list?
I think so. Just considering how that relationship ended before in the past.
I think he still has a good relationship with them because he started his Williams relationship on loan until that contract expired. So I think he still has a good relationship with Red Bull. You know, you can listen back to his radio when Max won his first championship. He was on the pit wall right there. I think they still like Alex. I just don't see it happening. It's just not in the cards that, you know, it's going to be 3 or 4 years out from when he departed with the team. But then again, look who just came back, you know? Who knows? But for the time being, let's cancel him. We'll cancel Alex Albon. He's a sweet boy. We will cross him off.
He's out of consideration.
He's out of contention. Next, Yuki Tsunoda. I'm going to say no. Helmut Marko seems to really have a soft spot for Yuki Tsunoda that I don't fully understand as much as I love Yuki, but Helmut being the hard ass, the hard nose dictator that he is, has Yuki on such a long leash, and I don't fully understand it. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it has something to do with the Honda connection. Honestly, like if they really believe that Honda is that attached to Yuki that they would take him to Aston Martin, like maybe that is part of the reason why he's been held so close to Helmut's chest. You know, just that relationship with Honda is really taken Red Bull pretty far. So,
but don't you think that if he has serious ties to Honda and they're already going to Aston Martin, that Red Bull would want to part ways with Yuki? Maybe this whole these two things can really tie together. You know, they could have gotten wind that Honda wants a piece of that Yuki pie, and then gone, well, how hard do we want to fight with Honda and Aston Martin to keep this dude? Why don't we bring in a real deciding factor and see where he stands? That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they really want to assess and see
where he's at, whether or not they want to hold on to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of which, of everybody logistically available, I don't even see him in my top 4. So, how do you feel about Yuki getting that seat next year?
I mean, of the 4 you just mentioned, I feel like he's probably second in line.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like actually, no, I should say third in line. So next year, I think Checo will still be around.
Okay.
I think DR will be second in line. Yuki third after.
Okay. So you're saying overall you think that Sergio Perez holds on to his seat?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm gonna put a pause on that. I don't think Daniel Ricciardo's getting the seat. I think that's obvious. So I'm just gonna cross Daniel Ricciardo off the list. I don't think he's gonna have what it takes to compete with Red Bull. Or with Max Verstappen, basically, or to even be on his tail. He's already kind of proven that
that's the thing. Is like, does he even have to be anywhere near as Max? And I don't think so. I think that they just want somebody that's going to be consistent and up there. They want a Valtteri Bottas. You know, they want a guy who's going to be.
I guess the way to put it is, I don't think you're getting anything in Daniel Ricciardo that you're not going to get in Sergio Perez. If anything, in Checo, you're going to get a better teammate. He's already proven that, but he's also still willing to fight, and I think Daniel Ricciardo would be willing to fight too. I do think Checo would unfortunately fall in line a little bit more. So Checo probably
I
gets
don't
the
know.
seat. What?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if Daniel was to get back in that seat, there would be an agreement to where, you know, Max is obviously dominating right now, and this is, you know, you're there to be a support role for
But
the
then that
team.
negates his entire purpose for wanting to come back.
I mean,
At the same time, though, Checo wants his first world championship. So they're all playing.
Sure.
They're all playing ultimate chess. You know what I mean by going, yeah. We'll be right on his rear wing all season long. We'll be right on his rear wing. But really, they want points and they want the chance to prove to the team that they need to let them race.
But I don't think Red Bull's necessarily worried about finding a second driver for Max that's comparable to him. I think they just want somebody that's going to be consistently, you know,
I'm not saying with these two that they want somebody to be comparable, but they do want somebody to be behind him. They want somebody protecting Max, and they want their car in second place. I think that's definitive. When all these rumors started swirling, when Checo fell out of podium positions, you know, that's when all this shit started happening. So they're not happy when he's not at least in third.
Yeah, but, you know, if they can get someone like Daniel to at least be on par, you know, with Checo, Daniel still has some advantages to himself that, you know, makes him a, you know, better pick, I guess, for a teammate than Checo could be potentially.
Potentially, I guess. I mean, why make the media move? Why cause the fuss? Why continue to look like the villain just to get Daniel Ricciardo back on the team? A team that they already parted ways. It just,
I mean, part of the reason why I think this is happening when it's happening, not only to maybe give Daniel a little bit extra time in that seat, but also, you know, in their eyes, everybody loves Daniel.
Yeah.
Right. But right now, not everybody's loving Red Bull. You know, there's the cost cap rumors. They're winning everywhere.
True.
You know, they're taking not everybody's favorite team right now. So if they can make a move like this, put Daniel back in, you know,
that is a very good point.
Favorite media personality, you know, takes a little bit of the heat off of them, and they look like nice guys.
Good point. All right, so there's those potential options, those two, and the obvious one being Sergio Perez for next season. Well, let's get to like some of these more rumored ones. So one of the big rumors, and we've talked about this a lot, is that Lando Norris is going to get swooped up by Red Bull, whether that means that he rides out his contract at McLaren or whether or not he gets bought out by Red Bull, who, let's face it, has the scratch to do it. McLaren had the scratch to buy out Daniel Ricciardo. Red Bull has the scratch to buy out Sergio Perez and then put Lando Norris in that seat if they wanted to. And then I believe that they would have to incur the cost of Lando Norris's contract at McLaren, right? I'm guessing that that's how something like that would go. But the Lando Norris one, to me, is a good rumor. It makes a lot of sense when you factor in the thought that Max Verstappen has said himself he doesn't want to stick around all that long in Formula One. He's got other things on his mind. He wants to race Le Mans. He wants to continue with his iRacing team, and he doesn't want this arduous 24-race schedule that F1 has put on them season after season, you know, for the last 2 or 3 years. He said himself, if it keeps going this way and they keep adding races or stay at this amount, that he's going to retire early. I think he's going to hit 3 or 4 championships, reassess whether or not he's got a real shot at tying Lewis and Michael, and then go from there. I don't think Max is concerned with being the GOAT in terms of how many rings he's got. But should they put Lando Norris in that seat, not only do they have somebody who can race right alongside Max, really put the Red Bull car where it deserves to be. He's a media darling, but he also has the potential of being the number one driver if and when Max leaves. He's a couple years younger than him. He's got world championship caliber talent. Everybody loves him. What more do you need?
Yeah,
he already looks good in orange.
You're convincing me right now as you're describing all this. So it is a good move for them. Whether or not it actually would happen, I don't know. But
and Lando Norris is Max's best friend on the grid. I think he's one of two friends of Max's on the grid. One of two people that like Max.
I mean, I kept hearing how great friends that Max and Danny are.
Yeah, but Danny just made his way back. So, all right, three friends. Alex, Lando, Danny. But that's a big one to me. I think that one is actually, if it's not next year, I think it's when Checo's contract is up. Lando Norris, because I believe those two contracts coincide. Lando Norris's McLaren contract is up. Sergio Perez's Red Bull contract is up. Maybe they just do the old switcheroo. You have Oscar being the number one driver at McLaren, Checo being the number two driver at McLaren, Max being the number one driver at Red Bull, Lando being... I refuse to say Lando Norris is a number two driver, but a 1B for Red Bull.
Yeah,
and would be
that all sounds really nice, honestly. Like
that would be a true Lewis and Nico right there. They'll be in the prime of their careers. Lando having a real shot at a world championship. I like that. I like that one a lot. I'm going to say that's going to happen in 2025 or 2026.
Okay.
I don't see it happening next year.
Yeah, 2025. I think that would be the year for it to go down.
But let's address this giant rumor that Red Bull contacted Ferrari for the services of one Charles Leclerc. And it's been documented. It happened. Red Bull made the phone call inquiring about Charles Leclerc. This, to me, as insane as that is, no, that's the wrong phrasing. It's just insane. I don't think that Red Bull has an interest in Charles Leclerc.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would cause way too much friction. He's already got friction between him and Max. He's the face of Ferrari. Red Bull doesn't want that as part of their team. They don't want the former face of Ferrari. And Ferrari doesn't want to let go of their face to Red Bull. So I think the entire rumor of Charles Leclerc to Red Bull is insane. I don't believe that Red Bull made the call to Ferrari asking for Charles Leclerc. I do, however, believe that Red Bull made a call to Ferrari inquiring about one of their drivers. If that call was made, that call was inquiring about Carlos Sainz. Think about that for a second. When you talk about somebody talented enough to take that Red Bull to its limits, Carlos Sainz. Somebody who's also willing to play a good team game, Carlos Sainz. Someone who's also not afraid to make his own decisions, the way that Charles Leclerc is, Carlos Sainz. Someone, just like Daniel Ricciardo, who is a Red Bull Academy driver, Carlos Sainz. His first year, if not 2 years, I don't remember, were at Toro Rosso before leaving to go to Renault. Carlos Sainz. If a call was made from Christian Horner and Helmut Marko to Ferrari, I don't think they were looking for Chuck Leclerc. That makes no sense. Also, the paycheck. My God. But you know who can get on the cheap? Carlito.
I mean, I do think that Carlos would look good in wings. Gotta say.
Carlos would look good back in the gold, red, and the blue. It would be nice.
I think that call to Ferrari was about Mekies.
Laurent Mekies. Oh, interesting.
Because they made the announcement today that he was going to be out at Ferrari before Spa. So he won't even be there this weekend. It wasn't even going to be till the end of the season where the change was made. So
you think that Laurent Mekies and the news of his departure from Ferrari was already floating around the paddock? And
no, it was already a thing that at the end of the year, Mekies was going to go to AlphaTauri. But they announced today that, actually, Mekies is going to he's done for the rest of the year. He's not going to be our racing director for the rest of the year.
Interesting.
He's out. He's making his move. So
maybe it was. Maybe it was just a call about that. So yeah, they announced preseason that Mekies was going to go over from one Scuderia to another Scuderia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're telling me? But they announced today. Was it today or was it yesterday?
I think it was today.
Okay, they announced today that they put the kibosh on it and they're just shipping him over now, or that he's at least done with Ferrari, but he won't start with AlphaTauri until next season, right? He's taking Franz Tost's job.
Correct.
And how long has he been at Ferrari? He's relatively new. Wasn't this his first year?
He's been around for a little bit. Let me see.
Or am I just thinking back to the news of when we broke the news that he was going to AlphaTauri? I remember talking about Mekies at some point in this season, but I don't remember why.
He joined Ferrari in 2018.
As race director,
Mekies did. He was their sporting director, and then he's been their race director. It's 2021, since beginning of 2021.
Okay, the news of what I'm thinking of, we had to have just been talking about his perennial move to AlphaTauri. Who the fuck knows? All these guys, these are all behind the scenes guys. We can't keep tabs on everyone we're talking about. It's like some baseball nerd remembering every third base coach and when they join and who they are, what their name is. But yeah, there's potential that maybe that was just a call between the two heads of those two teams to get Mekies shipped over quicker. Who knows?
So, how are we feeling about Daniel?
As a whole, or heading into the weekend?
Just as a whole. I mean, he obviously had a first great drive back, and
let's not call it great. He spun in FP1. It was wet. He got punted, not his fault.
Yeah,
he did manage to beat his teammate. He had a good first race back. I was talking with fucking Bruno the other day, former guest of the show, and he was, for whatever reason, Daniel Ricciardo is now Bruno's new carpet that he's going to ride on. Yeah, for some reason, Bruno's all over Daniel Ricciardo, and he's telling me what a great weekend Daniel Ricciardo had. I was like, he finished P13. Let's not start pulling levers.
Yeah, so
P13 in the tractor, it's a good drive. Had he finished P9, P10, I'd be going, yo, Checo, pack your bags, my guy.
So, as you know, I'm probably the last person that's going to give Danny Rick credit, but I will give him a lot of credit for last week's race, because after his first lap incident, right, he got put back to the back of the grid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he himself shortened his hard tire stint. Right, he pitted, went onto hard tires after 9 laps. He after 9 laps. After 9 laps, he pits.
Okay.
To go onto medium tires because he wanted to have open track in order to make up some room. Ended up going 40 laps on medium tires, the longest stint of anybody on medium tires, and ends up securing a finish ahead of Yuki.
Yeah.
13th.
Give him credit. It was a good call. That's what comes with experience. That's what comes with confidence. Along with the ability to drive a race car. And Nyck DeVries had one of those things. And so I guess, at least in this short window of time, that proves that AlphaTauri Red Bull probably made the right decision.
Yeah, well, in my book, this is a good start, but
a lot more to
he's got to back it up. He's got to back it up. There's a lot more of a season to go. He's got to be on top of it. So
yeah,
I'll be
it's easy.
I'll be keeping my eyes peeled.
I won't, maybe saying it's easy isn't the right word, but I'll use it. It's easy to have a good debut, right? Lower stakes, you're riding the high. If he keeps momentum up, then maybe we'll give Bruno a high five or some stupid thing like that. So how are we looking for Spa? It seems that
like we said, looking wet.
Yeah, we might have another fucking repeat of 2021, which I think was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, if you remember the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, it got rained out, and then F1 decided to do 3 laps under safety car, which in Parc Fermé rules allows them to then black flag the race, cancel it, no refunds. It ends as is. Podium ceremony goes on. The race is complete. Points are given out. Deducted points, but still.
That was just based off of qualifying position, basically, right?
Yeah, because they didn't actually do any racing laps, so they finished the race as they qualified. They were under safety car, but because they ran those 3 laps, that's the rule. That's the number of laps that they need to hit, and they hit that. They parked them, and they sent everybody in Belgium home. But it raised a lot of questions that year, whether or not Spa, the Circuit de Spa de Frankenchorps, or however you say it, pork chops, should even be left on the calendar, because the structure, just like, at in Italy earlier this year, whether or not the grounds of the facilities are sound enough to hold an event like this. The parking structure mostly is, I think, in question. The safety of getting hundreds of thousands of people out, the safety of the drivers, if they're going to continue to run this race and it be washed out like this. Which sucks, because it's one of the greatest races. It's one of the best tracks in the world. It's one of the best on the calendar. It's one of the most historic. I think it's one of the most beloved. But they keep running into this issue.
Yeah, and I think normally this race is after the summer break, and I think that usually helps a bit with the weather. I think maybe it happening earlier in the year kind of sets it a little bit worse luck for having bad weather, but I'm not really sure. I mean,
this is
the drivers.
This is about to be strike 3. It's
tough. I mean, the drivers got together this weekend or before this weekend, and they put a call onto FIA to cancel the race if they see conditions similar to what they've had a few weeks ago when Solano had his accident.
Wow. Yeah. And good for them. They shouldn't have to race close to 250 miles an hour, 215 miles an hour in, soaking wet conditions. It just sucks. It sucks to be back here. But like I said, I think this will be strike 3. If Spa gets rained out, it doesn't get renewed. I think it's got a 2-year contract, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But it's going to really come into question, because 2021 was canceled. 2022 was wet. 2023 in jeopardy. So I hope we get a race. Even if it's wet, I'm getting a little tired of wet races. As much action as it brings. And we you know what? I'm gonna reverse that. We do need a little bit of drama just to give us some excitement for the season, but not right when things are actually tightening up. We've got McLaren and Mercedes really shortening that rope on Red Bull's lead and the pace of those cars. And now you want to go and cancel the fucking race on us? We've got Aston Martin promising podiums from here on out. We've got Williams threatening points week in and week out. And goddamn, we can't have a dry race to just really let us see where we stand. Either way, as long as it runs, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, the least amount of rain is forecasted for Sunday, so
That's good.
I don't know
I don't know how much
if
I
we can at
trust
least get through
forecast.
practice and
Yeah.
qualifying, then I think we'll be good. But
That might be just the amount of chaos that we need, just to not let anybody get their
Yeah.
feet wet, no pun intended, not get that great of a feel for the track, even though, all these guys know this track like the back of their hand. But yeah, hopefully this race runs. That's all I can really say on that. As long as we don't have a repeat of 2021, I'll be happy.
Well, do you have any predictions?
Of course I've got predictions.
Okay, let's do it.
Do you have yours ready to go?
I'm just gonna make them up as we go.
I wrote down here at the top of my notes, Laurent Mekies, who cares? My first prediction is that we will have a 3-team podium in the sprint race, which we didn't mention. It's a sprint weekend, so we have more action.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna say Aston back in top 5.
Ooh, that is bold. That's a bold prediction.
Hey, we wanted to be bold with
Just
these,
like the title, just like the game says. My second bold prediction is Logan Sargent gets his first F1 points this weekend, whether that be in the sprint or in the race on Sunday. Yankee Doodle Dandy gets his very first F1 point or points.
Damn, I kind of wanted to use that one, but
I think we should make a rule that we can't have the same prediction. We did that one time.
Yeah, we did it once, didn't quite work out.
So I went first this week. You should go first next week or next race.
Yeah.
If we can remember to do that.
Okay, I'm going to say Yuki beats Danny Rick.
I like that. I think that's plausible, too. Not even plausible, probable. I would say that's probable. Yuki's going to have a fire under his ass. He's kind of just been skating by. He's had...
Yeah, he needs the pressure.
Pierre Gasly wasn't much of a teammate. I think his time at the Red Bull family was really dwindling down. He hated it there. That was an easy skate for Yuki, and because he's for whatever reason so tight to Helmut Marko. And then once Nyck DeVries came in, man, the first 11 or 12 races of whatever it was of this season, Yuki was just lounging in that seat. All right. I'm going to have you make your third prediction before I do mine because it's going to be bold.
Okay, I got one. I don't know how bold this is, but Ferrari's going to screw up at least one pit stop.
And by screw up, do you mean they don't have a tire on? Do you think it's going to go long? And if it's going to go long, how long? What's the benchmark? Is it 4 seconds?
It's going to go at least longer than 3 seconds.
That's not really. I mean, 2.9.
All right, so 4. We'll say 4 seconds.
You think Ferrari's going to have...
That's an official screw up. Is 4
I would
seconds.
say, yeah, 4 seconds is an official slow pit. Okay. I'll allow it. My last prediction, maybe the boldest prediction we've had all year long. Maybe the boldest in the history of this 1-year-old show.
Okay.
The 2023 Belgian Grand Prix will be the first race of the season that Red Bull does not win. That is bold, my guy.
What's your theory there?
I think that McLaren is going to come out fighting.
Okay.
I think both of their drivers are going to be in form. They're going to be battling for a podium. I think that despite some others thinking the opposite, I think that Lewis Hamilton and his Mercedes are going to be dialed in and going to be pushing. I think that because of the chaos that we might see on the track with the weather, that's going to be a factor.
Okay.
But what makes it so bold, not only because of the form that Max has been on this season, not just because the RB, what are they at? RB20? Not just because the RB20 is the fastest F1 car ever made, but do you remember how Max finished last year at Spa?
No.
Do you remember where Max qualified for Spa 2022?
No.
P14.
Okay.
And then he went on to win that race by something like 20 seconds. But he won that. I don't remember the exact timing chart. But he won that race by a good gap. Not only that, he went from P14 to P1 in less than 14 laps. I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was a fantasy dynamo. If you played your mega chip on Max that weekend, you made out like a fucking bandit. So that's why I think it's so bold. Not only because, I'm calling for someone to slay the dragon, but because how dialed in Max is at Spa. That's a bold prediction. I'm really putting a lot on the two McLarens and fate. So there you go. That's my third bold prediction.
Cool. Right on. Well, I'll be looking forward to waking up in a few hours to recap.
Hold on. That's all I get. That's your reaction.
That's it.
Cool. Right on.
What? I mean,
I've been thinking about that for 3 days. I rehearsed that in the car. Cool. Right on. Okay.
It was good. It was good. I liked it.
Okay. All right. Cool. Right on.
I mean, it kind of the vibe kind of got broken with the 30 seconds of disruption, but
we had a technical difficulty. I was just going to edit it out, but here we are discussing it. Okay. So that's a wrap. Those are our bold predictions.
I thought it was great.
Thank you. Cool. Right on. Anything else before we wrap this baby up?
Nah, I need to get some sleep.
Go get some sleep. Guys, this has been the Into the Chicane pre-Belgian Grand Prix edition. We will see you guys post-race in Belgium.
Adios.